My name is Rachel Bennett, and for most of my life, I believed that love meant showing up. No questions, no conditions, no applause. I thought if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, I'd be seen. But everything changed the day I opened a folder in my parents' kitchen. One envelope, just one, was all it took to erase decades of loyalty. Have you ever found out you were invisible to the people you gave everything to? If so, then maybe my story is yours too. Because sometimes, the most painful betrayals aren't loud. They're written in silence. So tell me, what would you have done? It was a Sunday like any other. Quiet, predictable, routine. The kind of afternoon where nothing feels urgent, but everything feels familiar. I had stopped by my parents' home in Salem, Oregon, just like I had done nearly every weekend for years. That house, a red brick 2-story with ivy curling around the porch, was a place I had practically built with my own hands. Every tile in the kitchen, every repaired leak, every quiet renovation bore the mark of my time and money. It wasn't just a house, it was a monument to everything I had given without being asked. My mother, Evelyn, wasn't great with technology, so I often helped her sort bills, scan paperwork, and manage online accounts. She handed me a cluttered stack of papers that afternoon: credit card statements, grocery receipts, insurance documents. "Can you take a look at this for me?" she asked, heading out to water her orchids like nothing in the world could go wrong. I sat at the same dining table I'd once done homework on as a teenager and began sorting through the mess. Most of it was forgettable: a couple of missed payments, a utility shut-off notice they hadn't mentioned. But then, at the bottom of the pile, I found something that didn't belong in the usual mix. A thick, cream-colored envelope marked in bold lettering: estate plan and will. I hesitated. I wasn't trying to snoop. I wasn't looking for secrets. But I'd always been the one managing emergencies, remembering renewal dates, reminding them about backup plans. So I opened it, just to make sure everything was in order, just to help. But what I found didn't just catch me off guard, it knocked the breath out of my lungs. Every single asset, everyone, was listed under my younger sister Megan's name. The house, the savings, even the old Subaru I had helped them buy when their last car broke down. And the only time my name appeared in that document was in a single sentence: "We love both our daughters." That was it. No acknowledgement of the years I paid their mortgage behind the scenes. No mention of the nights I stayed up managing their finances. No note about the roof I personally helped replace just last winter. I had been reduced to a ghost, visible only when needed, forgotten when thanked. My hands shook, the pages blurred. I wanted to believe it was a mistake, that I was reading it wrong, but it was right there in print, cold and deliberate. And that's when I heard it, the sliding glass door creaking open behind me. My mother's footsteps soft on the wood floor. "Rachel, did you find the bank statement?" she asked, her voice light, unaware of the storm she had just unleashed. I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, will in hand, staring at her like a stranger. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. Not rage, not yet, but something far colder. The beginning of knowing. I turned toward her slowly, the will still in my hands. My voice came out calm, too calm, like it had traveled through ice. "Is this real?" Her eyes flicked toward the envelope, but she didn't even try to act surprised. She knew exactly what I was holding. "Oh, Rachel," she said with a sigh, like I had asked her if dinner was running late. "That's just something we put together a while ago. It's not final." Not final. As if that erased the meaning behind every word printed on those pages. I stared at her, waiting for her to say something more, to apologize, to explain. But instead, she offered a nervous smile and reached out to touch my hand, like her palm could smooth the jagged edge she'd just handed me. "What does it mean?" I asked, stepping back. My throat tightened. "What does it mean that I'm not in this at all?" That's when my father walked in from the living room, holding his chipped mug of coffee like nothing had happened. He placed it on the table with a sigh, the kind of sigh he'd give before changing the channel. "You don't need to react like this," he said, mildly annoyed. "You're doing well. Megan, she still needs time to figure things out." I let out a laugh, but it didn't sound like me. It was hollow, bitter. "She's 30, I said. "She hasn't held a job for more than 3 months. She calls you when she can't pay her phone bill, and I'm the one who's been covering your mortgage for the last 3 years. They didn't deny it. "I fixed your roof last winter," I continued. "Paid off 3 of your credit cards, replaced your leaking water heater while she was in Mexico on a yoga retreat. And now you're telling me I don't need to be in the will because I'm doing well?" My mother stepped closer, voice soft, almost pleading. "We just wanted Megan to feel secure." I pulled my hand away. "And what about me?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What about the one who's been holding this place together while she floats through life like it's some kind of game?" But they had no answer. Not a word. Not even the decency to lie convincingly. I placed the will back on the table with a kind of reverence, like I was setting down the final contract in a war I never agreed to fight. "Thanks," I said, barely louder than a whisper. "Thanks for showing me where I really stand." Then I picked up my coat and walked out the front door. No one followed me. No one called my name. The silence was confirmation. For years, I thought I was part of something solid, a family, a legacy. But all it took was one envelope to reveal the truth. I was never part of their future, only their convenience. 2 weeks passed. No calls, no messages, no apologies. The same people who once flooded my phone with, "Can you stop by and take a look at this?" and "We need you to check the heater," suddenly went quiet. And in that silence, I started to wonder, was I grieving a family or just the illusion of one? I told myself they needed time, that maybe they were ashamed or unsure how to reach out. I even hoped, stupidly, that my walking out had stirred something in them. But instead of a conversation, I got a transaction. A cold, clinical text from my father. "Rachel, this month's mortgage is due. Can you transfer it by Friday?" No. "Hi. No. How are you feeling?" No mention of the will or the betrayal that still sat like stone in my chest. Just a request. Like I was a direct deposit they forgot to automate. I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered for a moment. I could have replied with silence. I could have ignored it. But something inside me, something sharp and clear, rose up like a wave. And I typed, "I think Megan can handle it. The house is hers now, right?" I hit send and didn't wait. 10 minutes later, another buzz. This time, it was my mother. "Rachel, don't do this. We need to talk." I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, not even because I was hurt, but because something in me had shifted permanently. For years, I thought if I worked hard enough, if I loved loud enough, I'd finally be seen. But the truth had been in front of me all along. I wasn't a daughter. I was a service, a safety net, a backup plan. That night, I cleaned my apartment in silence. No podcasts, no background music, just the soft hum of my own presence. And the next morning, another message came in. From Megan. "You're overreacting. Mom and Dad didn't mean it like that. You've always been independent. I'm just not. You know that." I read it twice, 3 times, and then again, slowly. Independent. That was the excuse. That because I didn't need help? I didn't deserve fairness. So I typed back, "Then prove you deserve what you've been given. Start by paying the mortgage." There was no reply. Not from her, not from anyone. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel guilt. I felt something closer to clarity. Because if love was just a transaction, I was done being the only one making payments. That same afternoon, I did something I had thought about for years but never dared to do. I called the bank and removed my name from the joint account. Just like that, I was no longer tethered to their mortgage, their bills, their emergencies. I wasn't their silent lifeline anymore. I canceled every auto payment I'd once set up without question. Electricity, internet, water. I deleted the reminder apps from my phone, each tap feeling like a quiet ceremony. A release. It felt strange at first. Not rebellious, not spiteful, just necessary. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't make an announcement. I just stopped. Stopped being the fixer. Stopped being the reliable one. Stopped patching holes no one else bothered to notice. That night, I walked home from work and did something small, something silly even. I stopped at the bakery around the corner and bought a chocolate cake. The kind I used to love but never bought because there was always something more important to pay for. I brought it home, played my favorite playlist while I cleaned the apartment, and didn't check my phone once. Not for a text, not for a missed call, not even for the inevitable guilt message I knew would come. I went to bed that night without dread clawing at my chest. I didn't lie awake worrying about what bill was due next or who needed saving. And when I woke up the next morning, I felt something I hadn't felt in over a decade. Lightness. But of course, when guilt didn't work, they turned to something else. Something louder, messier. Blame. It started with a Facebook post from my mother. I wouldn't have seen it, but Olivia from the Art Center sent me a screenshot. "Have you seen your mom's Facebook?" she asked. I hadn't. I rarely used mine. But when I logged in and searched Evelyn Bennett, there it was. A photo of the house I had helped maintain for years, now framed with a long dramatic caption. It's heartbreaking when your own daughter turns her back on family, abandoning sick and aging parents in their time of need, after everything we sacrificed for her. Over 80 shares, dozens of comments, distant cousins, old church friends, and neighbors chiming in with sympathy and outrage. I scrolled slowly, my chest tightening, not with anger, but with something colder, disbelief, exhaustion. Then I saw another post, this one from my father, with a grainy photo of the front steps. We thought Rachel loved us, but when we needed her most, she walked away. And finally, Megan. Some people only show kindness when they're in control, but when you ask them to step down and help, they choose silence. I guess that's what strength looks like these days. They weren't reaching out for reconciliation. They were building a narrative, a story where I was the villain for walking away. But they forgot one thing. I wasn't silent anymore. For a few minutes, I just sat there staring at my screen. Not hurt, not even surprised, just tired. They had rewritten the story, painted me as cold, heartless, ungrateful. And the saddest part? Most people believed them. Friends from church, distant relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years, strangers who didn't know my voice but were suddenly sure of my character. They didn't know about the years I spent covering bills no one else could afford, the nights I sat in emergency rooms while my parents slept, the way I carried this family like scaffolding no one ever noticed until I finally stepped away. It would have been easy to stay silent. I was used to that role, the quiet one, the strong one, the one who never made a scene. But something had changed. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about truth. So that evening, I sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and made one post. No color background, no emojis, just black text on white. My family is telling one side of the story, so here's mine. I attached a photo of the will, Megan's name circled in red as the sole beneficiary. Below that, I uploaded screenshots of the mortgage payments, the utility bills, the bank transfers, all with my name attached. I didn't embellish. I didn't add commentary. I ended the post with one line. My silence wasn't consent. I was just waiting for the right moment to speak. That moment is now. Within 10 minutes, the comments began to pour in. I had no idea. Rachel, you did all of this? You're one of the kindest people I know. Thank you for speaking up. Don't let them rewrite your story. Even some of the people who had commented on my mother's original post came back to apologize. Because truth doesn't always roar, but it stands. It doesn't need dramatics. It just needs daylight. 2 days later, my mother deleted her Facebook post. My father deactivated his account altogether. Megan changed her profile picture to a black and white flower, the vague, dramatic move she always made when she lost control of the narrative. I didn't respond. I didn't post anything else. I didn't need to. That night, it rained softly, tapping against my window like a lullaby. I sat on my couch, wrapped in a blanket, not triumphant, not vindicated, just still, just quiet. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting. Not for an apology, not for validation, not even for the next betrayal. I was simply done. And in that quiet, something new began to bloom. Not anger, not revenge, relief. In the days that followed, the silence from my family became its own kind of music. No one reached out. No, let's talk. No half-hearted explanations. And honestly, I was fine with that. After all, there's something strangely peaceful about not chasing people who only notice your absence, not your presence. I got up early, taught my photography class at the art center, sipped coffee without checking for texts. My life didn't fall apart without them. It opened up. But when you remove yourself from someone's chaos, they often panic, especially when they realize they can't spin the narrative without resistance. That's when the transfer request came. $2,900 from my mother. No message, no apology, just the sterile, emotionless request like I was still on payroll. I stared at the notification, and then, without hesitation, I tapped decline. 5 minutes later, the phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. I let it ring 4 times, then declined the call. Seconds later, a message came through. Rachel, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline? I stared at the screen, then typed, because it's no longer my responsibility. Ask Megan. It was the first time I'd said it out loud, to them or to myself, and it felt final. For so long, I had believed that being good meant being available. That love was sacrifice. That family meant putting myself last. But now, I understood something I had never allowed myself to believe before. You don't owe anyone your destruction in the name of love. That same afternoon, I did something symbolic. I took out the old spiral notebook I'd used to manage their lives for years. Inside were logins, passwords, bill schedules, emergency contacts. It was the blueprint of everything I'd kept running while everyone else forgot how much I was holding up. I looked at it for a long time. Then quietly, I slid it back onto the shelf. I wasn't their unpaid assistant anymore. I wasn't their memory, their manager, their safety net. And just when I thought the lesson had landed, another message appeared. This time, from Megan. Are you serious? The power is about to be shut off. Are you really going to let that happen to your own family? I took a breath, slow and deep. Then I typed, no, I'm letting everyone take responsibility for their own choices. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. I didn't lie awake. I didn't feel guilt pressing on my chest. Because here's the thing about people who always rely on someone to clean up after them. They never truly learn until they fall. And for the first time, I was letting them fall. Without catching, without softening the blow, without rescuing anyone but myself. And in doing so, I was finally free. It started with the lawn. Olivia, my co-worker at the art center, mentioned it first. Drove past your old place yesterday, she said over coffee. The yard's overgrown, paint's starting to peel. Small things. Things only someone who cared would notice. But for me, those small things spoke volumes. Because I knew exactly what that meant. Without someone tending the edges, patching the cracks, and paying the bills behind the scenes, everything was starting to fall apart. 3 days later, my phone buzzed. Another message from my mother. Rachel, we need to talk. Your sister can't figure out how to pay the internet bill. Can you help? No mention of what had happened. No ownership, just a request. A tug on the same rope they'd always used to reel me back in. I didn't reply. I walked over to my bookshelf and pulled out that spiral notebook again. Tucked between photojournals and old negatives, it held years of passwords, billing schedules, and account numbers. The tools I once used to keep them afloat while they barely noticed I was paddling. I held it in my hands for a long moment. Then slowly I slid it back into its place, untouched. I wasn't going to fix it. 3 more days passed. Then Megan messaged me. "Are you serious? The power's about to be shut off. Are you really going to let that happen to your own family?" I stared at her words, reread them, then typed a single line. "No, I'm just letting everyone take responsibility for their own choices." And this time, the silence felt satisfying. But it didn't end there. A few mornings later, a call came in from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail, but curiosity pulled me back. It was Mrs. Langston, the neighbor who had lived next to my parents for over 2 decades. "Rachel, I hope you're well. Your mom asked if I knew any realtors. I think they're trying to sell the house, but it's not going well." I thanked her, hung up, and sat in silence for a long while. No satisfaction, no smugness, just a quiet knowing. Later that afternoon, another message arrived, this time from my mother again. "Rachel, please, we really need you. The bank is sending someone to assess the property next week. We're out of options." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I sat by the window, watching golden autumn leaves fall in slow spirals onto the sidewalk. For so long, I'd believed that a moment like this, watching them panic, watching them scramble, would feel like justice. But instead, all I felt was a deep, bone-tired ache. A kind of fatigue that can't be measured in hours, only in years of trying to be everything to people who never truly saw you. And I had no interest in going back, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy, for myself. 3 days later, there was a knock at my apartment door. No warning, no call. Just a soft, persistent knock followed by a familiar voice, breathless, shaky. "Just 5 minutes, Rachel. Please, just 5 minutes." I opened the door but didn't step aside. Megan stood there, hair messy, hoodie wrinkled, a stack of paperwork clutched to her chest like a life raft. Her eyes were wide, desperate, unfamiliar. I didn't say anything. "I'm not here to ask for money," she said quickly, already anticipating my wall of silence. I need help. I don't understand the bank terms. I didn't think it would spiral this fast." I crossed my arms. "What about the inheritance?" I asked, flat and quiet, like I was asking about the weather. She looked down. "It's tied up in an investment portfolio. If I withdraw now, there's a penalty." I didn't think. "I know," I said, finishing the sentence for her. "You didn't think." Her silence said more than anything she could have added. I stepped out, closed the door gently behind me, and stood there on the landing, arms still crossed. "This is the lesson, Megan," I said. "Everyone stumbles, but no one learns if someone's always there to catch them." Her eyes welled with tears. "You're really going to let them lose the house?" "I'm not letting anything happen," I said, my voice steady. "They made choices. Now, they live with them." I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. A few days later, I ran into Marcus, an old classmate who now worked in real estate, at a local community event. We were catching up when his tone suddenly lowered. "Hey, is your parents' house on Maple Lane?" he asked. I nodded slowly. "We've seen a few red flags pop up. Missed payments, property decline. Looks like it might be flagged for foreclosure. It's in rough shape." I didn't flinch. "I know." He looked at me for a moment, waiting for more, but I didn't offer it. That night, I sat at my desk, editing photos from the workshop I had just wrapped up, a series on capturing joy. One image stopped me. A little boy running down a sunlit trail, arms open, grinning like nothing could ever touch him. That kind of joy? It doesn't grow where guilt lives. It doesn't bloom in places built on obligation. It lives in freedom. In the weeks that followed, I poured myself into what made me feel alive again, teaching photography, editing videos, even starting to write again. Not reaction posts, not angry replies, but quiet, honest entries on a new blog I started about breaking away from toxic family roles. To my surprise, the blog took off. Strangers messaged me, thanking me for giving words to something they'd carried in silence for years. One comment stayed with me. "I didn't even know I was allowed to walk away. Thank you for showing me I could." And that's when I knew this wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of me. If this story stirred something in you, if you've ever been the silent one, the fixer, the forgotten, share your experience in the comments. Your voice might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you found this story powerful or relatable, please support us by subscribing. We put a lot of heart into crafting these true life narratives, and one simple click helps us continue telling them. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Your engagement means everything. It keeps this community growing, healing, and speaking the truths that often go unheard.